Right, here we go. Sorry about the delay there. I think everything's working. I never really know, like switching between the AirPods and this mic and the boom mic and all the other mics. This is also a little off center. There we go. That's a little better. Anyway, let's get started. Yeah, didn't get a chance to live stream last week. I was a little under the weather, so I am going to do 3 live streams this week. In honor of Thanksgiving, I'm going to open some PRs, give some thanks to Laravel. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it's thankful to open 7 PRs for the framework. That might actually end up being a little annoying. I don't know. I'll message Taylor and apologize in advance. But anyway, the point is, I'm getting an alert here that my Camlink system audio. I don't know why. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in the chat. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if it's thankful to open a stream of PRs, but this is my way of saying thanks to Laravel. Just some tiny little paper cuts I've noticed as I've worked on all these little various side projects. So I've got 2 of them today that I think we can get through in about 30 minutes. So let's jump in here. I will get all this going. So let's do git pull upstream. Let's get all the latest stuff from the frameworks so we can start opening some PRs here. Okay, cool. So let's do checkout -b and we'll say bus assert empty. Let me open up PHP Stormsville. That's not it. PHP Storm. Why would a web search be the first option in Spotlight? That's annoying. I haven't switched to what's the new one now? Like Raycast? What's the latest, greatest? Anyway, let's jump into the framework. There it is. Let's make this full screen. Oh, I'm here in the chat, so hopefully we're good. Audio's good. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone. All right, let's get to it here. There was something the other day I was working on. Let's get in. I think it's better to show this by example. Something I really love personally as a developer. Sorry, my iMac's spinning in the background as it indexes this project. Something I really love in programming, and this comes from Kent Beck. I talk about it in base code a lot, but is symmetry. I love symmetry. And you see this almost to a fault sometimes in features of Laravel. It's a good thing. But I'll come back to why I say see it to a fault here in a second. You see, for example, like this facade has a certain method, and so then, therefore, so does this other facade. Feature parity is probably another way in this case to talk about all of that. So let me open the mail fake and show you the feature parity or the symmetry I want to build. A while back, I streamed, you might remember this, the avid watchers. There's assert outgoing, and this basically just made sure that nothing was sent in a mail, right? Because you can queue mail messages, you can send mail messages immediately, you can do all of that kind of stuff. Similarly, if you jump into like the queue fake, you'll find like, assert nothing was dispatch or assert nothing was queued, right? Just a way to kind of collectively, let's finish looking at this one. Oh yeah, assert nothing. I think it's assert nothing outgoing. Yeah, here we go. So this basically is just a helper to say, nothing was sent and nothing was queued. Nothing was put on the mail, nothing was sent via mail via the facade. You could, of course, write these 2 assertions in your test, but again, it's going back to Laravel and this just kind of the beauty of it. Is that, they just give you these nice, helpful, human-readable kind of methods, right? Everywhere in the framework, in Eloquent, in the testing layer, just everywhere. And once one of these has it, you kind of expect or want the other areas to have it. So something else, kind of sticking with the mail facade, is if we go look, I think they added this like build. Yeah. So the other week I saw in all the PRs they added a mailer build in a PR, and within a day, all the other facades, the DB facade, the cache facade, all these other facades got a similar build method where you could dynamically build a facade without having to have like all the underlying configuration set up. You could kind of just build one on the fly, right? So I want the bus to have a similar test assertion as mail assert nothing outgoing. I want to assert that nothing was bust, so to speak, right? So let's go look at the bus facade. Because if we look at the bus fake, we'll see here that there's assert dispatched, there's assert chained, there's assert batched. There's so many different ways you can put something on the bus that it'd just be really nice to just pack all these up into like assert, nothing, again, assert nothing bust, assert nothing outgoing. That's not the right terminology, but we'll find the right terminology as we start writing the code. So let's make this method, let's kind of bring this to life. All right, that's kind of the number one. Is I wanted this the other day without having to write like assert nothing chained, assert nothing batched, assert nothing dispatched when you're using the bus fake. I just would love to be able to say assert, bus is empty, right? Maybe assert empty is a good place to start. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you think there's a cool name. If not, we'll spend a few minutes on it later. So just to get an idea of how this might work, this is just saying assert batched callback count. Okay, let's kind of look at the ones that exist. Assert dispatched is another one. So we could say assert nothing dispatched. Okay, so they collect all the batches, all the jobs, assert that no batch jobs were dispatched. Now, do you have to strictly be dispatched? Or do you assert nothing batched? Sorry. Is there assert nothing dispatched? Yeah, there is. Okay. Array key commands. The following jobs were dispatched unexpectedly. Okay, and then there's also assert chained. There is an assert. Maybe there's assert not chained. So see, chained doesn't even have one, it looks like. It's interesting. What do they have? Assert dispatched without chain. Assert if a job was dispatched with an empty chain based on a, okay. Assert dispatched with chain of objects. Chained batch. Assert batched. Assert nothing batched. Dispatched. Get all the jobs dispatched, okay. Dispatched after response. There's so many different things here. Yeah, I think dispatch sync. Interesting. Dispatch now. Chain. Okay. Let's go up to assert nothing batched. I'm going to borrow this one. Let's just paste this one for now. And let's just say assert. I'm just going to call it assert empty. In my mind, that kind of makes the most sense. Like the bus is empty because you could put a lot of different things on the bus. So it's very hard, again, as we see here, it's hard to distinguish. What are we saying? Assert nothing, assert nothing pushed. Q kind of uses the push terminology. I don't feel like the bus uses you put something on the command bus, right? Like assert no commands, maybe you could say, but they use commands and jobs kind of interchangeably in the code here. So I'm going to go with empty for now, because that's kind of what we're trying to say. And we'll take the same thing here. This is basically just a wrap up of this assert nothing batched and this assert nothing dispatched. This method is easy. What's not easy is we don't have one for this assert nothing chained, right? So we're going to need this one. So in the process of building this, we'll actually end up building this other one. Now for now, we could just kind of go and look to do the opposite, and then we could later bring this method to life. So let's do that. Let's leave this commented out for now, and let's kind of take a look. These are easy. Let's take a look at, again, where it does chained. So assert chained. Okay, command expected chain, array slice expected chain 1. Okay, so it gets the first thing off the chain. It checks to see what kind of close. I'm just trying to see where do they look. Where do they look for this stuff? Reset chain properties. Assert true. This dispatched command. I think here's a little bit of inside information. Looking at this part, this dispatched command is not empty. When you chain something, it actually takes the first job off of that chain and immediately dispatches it. So because of that, saying assert nothing dispatched is the same as saying assert nothing chained, because you wouldn't have been able to chain it. Now, I don't think that's the case for batching. So this is still a helpful method, even if it only does just the 2 calls that we made. It still kind of wraps those up, just like the mail assert nothing outgoing. But it's kind of a, you know, you have to know how the bus kind of works to be able to test it. And that, you know, that's just the name of the game, I guess. But seeing this, I kind of, in my mind, I would have expected assert nothing chained, just for your casual developer, again, that maybe doesn't know the depth of how that gets put on the chain. Like, I wouldn't expect, honestly, a Laravel developer, every Laravel developer, to know that nuance of the first job is popped off and immediately dispatched. I don't know. You can let me know in the chat if you knew that, but I kind of had to be reminded even looking at this code. So part of me feels like an assert nothing chained should just exist as a alias for assert nothing dispatched. And maybe that's what we do. So let's get a test going. A lot of talk here. Let's get a test going. Technically speaking, this is the code that we need, but let's see if there's a test for the bus fake. There does not seem, or at least not by that name. So let's go find where like assert nothing batched is used, right? Let's just scour the code base. This might take a second. Again, the iMac is running a little slow today. Where are we on time? Good time. What do we got in the chat? For me, it makes sense that assert nothing dispatched covers all. Yeah, I agree. We'll put a test for this, but I don't think assert nothing dispatched covers batched jobs though. It does cover chained, which, so I'm with you on that. Again, it takes a bit of nuance to kind of know that, but anyway, let's support testing bus fake. Okay, this is cool. Let's grab this and let's run this. Of course, this should pass. Call to undefined okay, sorry. Let me run composer update, just because I'm sure there's been some changes to the framework since I last streamed against the framework. So that's probably just a missing helper that's now in the framework. So let's run this again. There we go. Yeah, just needed to run composer update. Okay, cool. Everything's passing. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's go here. Assert nothing dispatched. We're going to kind of borrow this, right? So this fake assert nothing dispatched job, fake batch it, dispatch it. This fake assert, this fail. The following batch jobs were dispatched unexpectedly. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay, so this makes sure that it fails. Is it used elsewhere in here? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what they're doing. It's like a positive negative test. They basically say, okay, immediately it's fine. I'm gonna put something on the queue, call it again, and now I would expect it to fail. That's fine. That works. Okay, so we should. Yeah, it's kind of hard to test a negative code path, right? Assert nothing is done. It's kind of hard to test that. So I see what they're doing here. So let's change this to now assert bus is empty. And again, we'll come back to the name here, but basically we say assert empty. This should pass. We're gonna put so I think let's just do this for now. Okay, I don't like when tests have I know this test is a little bit chintzy, but I don't like when a test does 17 things. I'd rather say assert bus is empty, passes for, empty or whatever. We'll just say passes, duh. And then we'll say assert bus empty really is what we're talking about here. Assert empty fails when job batched. And then we'll do kind of the same thing they have. We're not testing the output here, so we really are just testing the failure. So we could probably just make this a little bit cleaner and say, I think you can just say this expect exception. We could just expect this. We don't need all the other stuff. Oh, that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong parameter. Okay. Let's see if we're on the right track here. So we can say assert empty would fail here with the expectation failure. I guess we could test which one it is, so we could always copy that other stuff. But again, I don't like the test to be like compound. So this should just pass. Okay, so we have 44 tests, 149 assertions. So we've added our 2 tests with additional assertions. So this is passing. Let's do the same thing for a dispatched job. So we could say something like this fake just dispatch this job directly. We don't batch it anymore. So we'll say dispatch job. I don't think it has to be a bus job stud, but it doesn't really matter. So let's run this, and we would expect when job is dispatched. Let's run this again. This should pass again. So we're cooking with fire now. This is pretty straightforward stuff. So now we just chain one and see if it fails again. So we can say when job is chained, and we'll throw this on there. And now I think we chain. What does chain look like? I always forget. You chain a collection of jobs or just an array of jobs? Oh, they wrap it no matter what. Okay, so we just chain a set of jobs here. Really doesn't matter. Just for, again, the whole point here is symmetry. So just for symmetry, let's see where they're chaining stuff. Okay, so they're chaining as an array, no problem. Okay, cool. So let's run this again. And again, I would expect, okay, see this failed. This failed. That's interesting. So assert nothing dispatched doesn't seem to work the way you would expect, because it doesn't throw an exception when I chain something. So we are indeed missing a testing path here. Assert dispatched maybe doesn't cover this the way I thought. Unless, do you have to dispatch the chain? Did I miss? Oh, I didn't dispatch the chain. Never mind. Jumped ahead of myself. Dispatch. Got ahead of myself. On all connections. Call to undefined method all on connection. You know what? Let's just copy their chained stud job here. Maybe there's something special about this. We don't even need to make that anymore anyway, so let's just dump that out. There we go. We're back to passing. Okay, so assert dispatched does do what we think. Yeah, so assert that it's empty. Okay, we've got double calls to assert empty here. I mean, again, we're kind of doing the positive. That's kind of a sanity check there, but that's not really what we're testing. So let me just pull this out. That's kind of extra. And we could inline those jobs too. Okay, so this works. I don't know how I feel about the alias of assert nothing chained. I've kind of gone on this like rant about how symmetry and how having these helpful methods is important, is kind of a crucial backbone practice of the framework. I feel like adding it. I could add it in a separate commit. It's not gonna hurt anything. Anyway, let's see what people are saying in the chat. Line 671 is a duplicate. Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I took that out. Yeah, you caught me. Let's inline these just for cleanliness here. Let's inline that, and let's inline that. I don't think we need to worry. And let me just make sure they're not dispatching anything in like a different way. Yeah, there's other places where they dispatch this job stub. So I don't think that should be a problem using that. It seemed like the chain job did maybe need to be one of their special stubs, but the rest of this seems good. Let's just make sure we're still passing here. Okay, and then for giggles, let's go back to that chained one and let's just drive out that aliased bit there. Again, I'll make it in a separate commit. It's an easy revert for the team if they don't care to have that. But I think, again, if you know that that's how chain jobs get dispatched, yeah, maybe also test for dispatch now. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. There are other things. Yeah, that's fair. Let's test this. When job batched, when job dispatched. Yeah, let's do this one and we'll call dispatch now and see what happens. I don't know. Will this auto pass? That's kind of an interesting when dispatched now. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Sorry, jumping everywhere. It auto passes. I don't think it's a bad test. But yeah, it auto passes. So it seems like that's okay. I mean, that should be included, in my opinion, under empty. I mean, you dispatched something so that the bus... Empty is not the right word here. It's almost like, you know, again, nothing outgoing is a little more appropriate. I don't have the right name here. I'm going to think on that after stream. I'm on the fence about this chain. You can never just call chain. Can you call... Let me open up the docs here so I can have an example while I'm talking. Let's go into bus chain, China. All right. When you, chain. You always call dispatch. Do you call dispatch when you batch something, or when you batch something, does it just go? You still have to call batch, right? Yeah, you still call dispatch. I'm just curious, if I put, let's go back to this batch job. If I say assert nothing dispatched here, does this work? No, it fails. Yeah, so see, there's a distinction between batched, even though you're still calling dispatch. So even though you're still dispatching here, I think there's room, again, for convenience for this other method. I'm going to make it. Let's go up to assert chained and just kind of put it in the same spot. Test assert dispatched with ignore class. Okay, let's just do this. Test assert nothing chained. Let's just borrow this, right? And here we can say assert nothing chained. And then here we'll do the same thing. And right now this, we're just gonna end up calling dispatched underneath. So let's go make this method. Let's go into the bus fake. Let's go to assert chained and we'll go underneath. We'll just go underneath this, and for now I'll just do public, I wish I could type today, public function dispatch, or sorry, assert nothing chained, no arguments, and we just pass this along to assert nothing dispatched. There may be an opportunity here to tweak the error message, but given that this assert true, the expected whatever job was not dispatched, when you called assert chained, I think it's okay to use the same thing. So let's run this. Can't redo. Oh, didn't change my test case names. Let's fix that. Assert, test assert fails. I may clean those up. Okay, so call to undefined method, assert nothing chained in the bus fake. Did I not bring that back to life? Assert nothing chained. There we go. And we pass. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think the alias is worth it. Okay, to try to get to one more little thing I want to add, I'm going to PR this off stream later as I try to think of a better name and make sure to separate those two commits. I'll share that when that's actually live on Twitter, Blue Sky, all the stuff. I'll just continue on the chain of the week for the PRs that are made. So for now, let's just do a git add dot and a git whip. I'll pull this off later, separate those commits, clean everything up, and try to think of a good name over lunch. But for now, let's go back to the 11.x branch and let's cut a new branch. Again, these aren't going to be interrelated, so I want to make sure the PRs are nice and separate and clean. So let's check out a new branch of HTTP fake shorthands. This might be a little ambitious to try to do in 15 minutes, but I'm going to keep going here. Okay, along the same lines, recently, if we go look at like the process fake, I think, or what is it called? It's process result, maybe? There was something I added not too long ago. Let's go look at the docs. I think it got put in the docs. Let's look for processes, yeah, and then testing. So when you test, when you set up, yeah, your process result here. When you set up the process fake and the process result, I think if we scroll down, we'll see here in a second, but you kind of have to create the object that you end up returning to the process fake. But it allows a few shorthands. I think if we scroll down, here's a shorthand. You don't need to customize all the other stuff. You can just return the string of the output that's supposed to be. I also added 2 additions to that shorthand. You could return an integer, and if you return just an integer, the assumption is that that is the exit code. And then you can also return an exception here. So you don't have to wrap everything up. If you need the complexity of the object and to set a lot of different properties, then you use process result right here. But if you're just returning the simple stuff while you're testing, most typically output or an exit code, a failure exit code, then you can do those quote unquote shorthands, right? I want to add the same thing to the HTTP client. So if we go look at the HTTP client and we go down to testing and faking responses, it'd be nice, again, if it had a similar shorthand. I don't always want to wrap this up into HTTP response. I think it would be cool to wrap it up in just, in this case, I could just return hello world, or I could just return an array for like an API response or something. And it pre-wraps those if you don't need to set anything else. Similarly, if you just return 200 or some kind of integer between the range of 100 and 600, that it assumes that you're returning a status code. So I think those shorthands would be nice in the testing layer. Again, other fakes have them. So just to provide kind of that feature parity, that symmetry that we've been talking about. This is just another kind of wishful thing sometimes when I'm writing a bunch of tests. So again, let me know in the chat what you think about that. I'm not going to worry about finding this in the process result. Let's just jump straight into the HTTP fake and at least see if we can find this. So if we go into the HTTP client, I think, where's our client? Is it called the client? No. Yes? No. What's it actually called? Oh, it's a factory. Yeah, I always forget which things it's called underneath there. So we got fake in here, I think. Yeah, okay, so we call a fake. A fake is really just itself. It just records them. So stub callbacks. When we fake, we get a bunch of callbacks. This stub callbacks merge the collection. This is where we would have to figure out kind of like what it gets called with, right? So if this is an array for each, callback as URL callback, stub callback. Okay, so let's go look at stub URL. Stub URL takes a fake, or sorry, takes a URL, takes a callback. If it's an instance of a callback, sorry, if it's an instance of the closure or that, then it returns the call to the callback, or it returns the callback itself. Somewhere down the lines when this stuff's getting evaluated, somewhere down the line when this is getting evaluated, you kind of have to know that that gets wrapped. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere callback gets cast or assumes that it's an HTTP response. So we kind of need to find that spot. Where is this actually where's that callback actually used, right? I think if we, yeah, I think that's the trick, right? It either needs to be a response or it needs to be something that adheres to a promise interface or the callable. That's the trick. So even though it's not type hinted in PHP, I couldn't just put 102 here. It's going to explode. So let's drive it out with a test and kind of see where we land. Oh, I'm here in the chat. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I have no doubt it's Adrian. There you are. Adrian. Yeah, it must be in stub URL. Yeah. I think we're on the same page here. Cool. Yeah, let's drive out a test, watch it explode, and see ultimately where it ends up, collapsing. So if we can identify that, then I think it would be pretty easy. I can move this around later. Let's just make one, right? Let's just say stub response. Yeah, here we go. This is fine. This has got some creation stuff here. Let's just put this here, and we'll say test shorthands for now. And here I'll just throw something like, in this case, look, it's doing HTTP created, right? So that, what is that, a 201, I think? Is that a 201 or a 204? I never remember. Let's just throw this on here in an effort to simply return a shorthand of the response. This ends up needing to be wrapped, right? So this is proof that when I actually call this, I should still get a response back, but it's probably going to explode because I'm going to give it an integer. So let's fix that, right? So I'm going to run this test. Whoops. Let's run this test. Let's see it explode. Let's see if we can figure out where it is. And then write some quick code for it. I probably don't need all those to run, so let's just stop on defect. Make sure it's ours. It is. Okay, call to member function then on int. So this is the problem where, just like we thought, it's not fulfilling the underlying guzzle promise. So it's kind of crapping out. But let's look and see if we can back this pending request, right? Factory 500 and then the pending request. So let's just kind of navigate this stack trace and see if we're going where we need to go. So let's go to 500. So here we go. When they actually call it, execute a method against a new pending request instance. Okay. So we call pending request. Okay, this is when we're actually, I think this is probably where we're actually, if we look, test case 92. I bet you this is, yeah. Oh, okay, no, this is the post. Okay, I thought it might have been this line that it was complaining about. It is higher up, that's good. Okay, so we call post on the pending request with parameters. It ends up exploding because underneath something happens. So let's go look at this pending request 804. So let's see what this does. Pending request 804. This is post. It sends post. Okay. So we're a little too. I kind of would have expected it to explode on line 93, to be honest, not necessarily line 94. But I bet if we keep digging down the line, if we go to, let's just go to 905 real quick. Yeah, where it actually attempts to call it. Yeah, it sends this, and my guess is somewhere in here, it actually, 905, retry, tries to attempt. So it's returning this callback, which gets executed somewhere else. Regardless, we could go super, super deep here. We're already kind of pretty deep. Regardless of where this actually ends up attempting to use our integer in this case, our faked response, is kind of irrelevant. The point is when you stub, that's the point of entry where it should fix itself, right? So we really just need to go back to the beginning where we're stub URL. What we need to do is we need to make sure that anytime you call any of the different ways in which you can call fake, right? Because there's a couple. You can call fake, you can call stub, you can call these different things. We have to make sure that whatever the central point is where it actually stubs this out, it handles those various things we're about to pass to it. So in my mind, that would probably be stub URL as we thought before and as Adrian kind of said in the comments. Like, this is probably the right spot looking at the fact here that it does some checking on what is this. So my guess is all roads lead back to stub URL. And this is where we could say something like if, is int callback, then we would just kind of return a wrapped response. Now, again, I don't know if response is already being used in here or if there's a fake response or whatever, but for now, we could call, is it this response? Do we have access to that here? This response? No. Okay, so I think you have to call HTTP response to get it, which means I have to import it, I think. That's kind of gross. Yeah, probably don't want to do this, but anyway, let's just do status. Let's just play around with this for a second. Callback, right? Let's just see if this works, right? I'm not saying this is the right code. This isn't final, but I think if this thing expects one of these, which will append, right? We'll say int or string or data, or whatever, or array, right? For all the different shorthands it can take now. But the point is it's going to need to handle those additional ones. So for now, the theory is that no matter if we call fake or stub URL, if we pass it an integer, our new status code shorthand, then it needs to wrap that in a response to align with the rest of the downstream code. That's the thought. All right, a facade route has not been set. Okay, so we can't call, of course, that makes sense. We can't call this HTTP response. So let's just go see what this actually does, because the facade itself can't call the facade, at least within the purpose of testing here. So where do we actually have response? Is it here or is it down in the factory? Yeah, it's here. Okay, it's a public static. Okay, we could call self then. We could call self. So yeah, we just don't need to call the facade from within the facade. That's obviously pretty nasty. So let's just say self here because it's, and we should probably say static. This is a framework. You might override this. So let's just call static in case you were overriding the factory. Does anyone else call static in here? I'm just curious. Okay, cool. There's another wrapper here, actually. There's another wrapper here in fake. Return static response. See, okay, so they're already doing it here. They're already doing it here a little bit. They've got some shorthands. If you don't pass a callback at all, it just returns a generic empty HTTP response. 200. So that's nice. Okay, so good. There's a precedent for writing the code this way, is my point. So that's good. Let's see if this passes. There we go, it passes. So I think this is the right place to put all of these things. We're approaching kind of the 45-minute mark, which, I like to keep these a half hour. Oh, and there goes my Okay, so there we go. Hopefully you can hear me again. Yeah, so to the point, my mic or my camera just overheated apparently. So another reason why I like to keep these under 45 minutes. Yeah, my camera is next to the Mac which is underneath the vent, and it's winter here now, or at least today. It decided to be winter. So the room's very warm, is the point. So camera crapped out. Anyway, let's end the stream here. I think we have a foothold for where to put things. I'm going to kind of carry down this road, and then I'll start tomorrow's stream. I'll start tomorrow's stream by continuing, or at least recapping the shorthands that I built. But we know where we do these now. I think we're back to a passing state. Yeah. So we're back to passing. So now it's a matter of just kind of like, you know, the int shorthand, the string shorthand, the array shorthand, all the various things that we can pass in here, and then make sure that I can call this like in different ways. So I can call this as stub, I can call this as, you know, stub URL, and it works no matter which way I do it. So I think I'll work on that here off stream, try to get these prepped and put out there, and then we'll kind of recap them tomorrow. But those are the two today. We'll carry on tomorrow with day 2 of thanks to Laravel. So today, thank you everyone for joining. See you all tomorrow, same time, same place.